Hey there, welcome back to This Day in History. It is July 27th, 2024, and as you know, it's not about the year, but mostly about the day. It's later on, it's early evening. It's Saturday, so it was my day off. So what did I do? I slept in. I was lazy, and I'm just now going to the gym, but now is as good time as any while I still got good daylight to do This Day in History. So let's get right into it. So birthdays. Our very first birthday it's 1768. Charlotte Corday is a French noble. Was born on this day in 1768. And then we fast forward to the 20th century. 1922, we see the birth of Norman Lear, an American producer, writer, and director. 1938, Ernest Gary Lyjaks, an American entrepreneur, was born in 1938. 1975, year I was born, Alex Rodriguez, also known as A-Rod, he's an American baseball player. He was born on this day. And in 1993, Jordan Spieth, Spieth, an American golfer, was born on this day. So that's it for the birthdays. The rest of the history, we've got some revolutions. A couple of actors passed away on this day. Some just a bunch of interesting stuff, really. So let's start off. The year is 1214. It's the Battle of the Bovines. French King Philip II defeats an international coalition led by the Holy Roman Emperor Otto the Fourth. Yes, the Fourth. So, yeah, for whatever reason back then, people just had an issue with the French. And I think a lot of it may have had to do with, at that time, France was kind of like rebelling against the status quo of what the rest of Europe was doing, and that's why a lot of the stuff was happening. There was all throughout the Middle Ages and or the Dark Ages, I should say, just prior to the Renaissance era, there was a lot of back and forth of whether France was too powerful in Europe versus Spain being too powerful in Europe or England being too powerful in Europe. And so like they all were like vying to keep any one of those main nations from expanding and being too influential throughout Europe. Germany wasn't really established as a combined territory yet. There were a lot of, I don't want to call them city states, but there were a lot of countries, I should say. Nothing really established like what we see in Europe today that has been, they've all unified under a banner at some point or another. There were so many kingdoms at the time that, but the big three kingdoms were the British Empire, the French kingdoms, the Spanish kingdoms, and I should say Italy too, but Italy wasn't really unified itself either. I mean, all of its regions, Tuscany and I'm drawing a blank, Rome, and all those. I mean, these were all. It was not a unified country. You know, the Austro-Hungarian Empire didn't really form yet by this point either. So it was all a bunch of regions really vying for power. And in this case, in this battle, the Holy Roman Emperor Otto IV had rallied a coalition, kind of not unlike what happened in the 91 Gulf War, where the United States took charge of leading a bunch of nations coming together to kick the crap out of Saddam Hussein and boot the Iraqis out of Kuwait. it was less of a coalition. It was like I want to say it was like 33 nations involved in the 91 Gulf War. There was like half of that involved in the second Gulf War. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. But yeah, so that's kind of like the context of what happened back then in Europe at that time. Everyone was just vying, this power wanted this power wanted that, this power wanted this. But the big thing was they didn't want alliances, otherwise it'd have one central power would have too much control of Europe, and they didn't want that. So we fast forward to 1794. It's the French Revolution. Antoine Christophe Merlin and conspirators, they initiate the Thermidorian reaction, and what that was is that it was an uprising. It was a revolt, which ended the reign of Maximilien de Robespierre, and specifically it ended the Reign of Terror, the period of time where it's known as the Reign of Terror under Robespierre. It was set during the French Revolution, so we're talking like this is the aristocrats versus the people who want an end to a monarchy. So they're wanting to depose the monarchy in favor of something like what the United States has. And they pursued that. Now they are a democracy as well as like England and Germany and the like. They may have some form of a republic, but for the most part they're a democracy. They're not quite the republic that we are. We fast forward to 1830, another revolution. The July Revolution began in France. Once again, this is back in France. So there's another revolution. So what happened was there was a French Revolution, and then Napoleon comes in and like he takes over and he makes himself emperor. Then he's deposed, and then they tried to bring the monarchy back, but that didn't work out so well. And so it's right around this time, 1830, the July Revolution began in France, and it led to the abdication of Charles X, bringing Louis Philippe to the throne. And this is right around that time period where they tried to bring the monarchy back, but it wouldn't last long, to the point where they finally did away with the monarchy altogether, and they went to a democratic type of system. But these are like, if you've read any of Alexandre Dumas' work, we talked about him the other day since it was his birthday, I think it was. He writes about this time period. The Count of Monte Cristo takes place during the time where Napoleon is trying to come back out of exile and make, another go at being emperor. It takes place around that time period. And that was like 1824-ish, I think. This is 1830, so it's much later than that, and where Napoleon is done, he's out of the picture, and France is trying to move on, and but there's still these factions that are fighting for like the old way versus the new way. We fast forward to 1909. Bear in mind, 1903 was the very first time that we ever had an actual working airplane fly, and it flew for a few minutes, I think. I want to say it was 11 minutes. I can't remember. But it was the airplane built by the Wright brothers, Wilbur and Orville Wright. So But it's on this day in 1909 that the world's first military airplane completes one of the final qualifying flights for its sale to the United States Army's Signal Corps. And who were doing these flights, who was selling this to the United States Army? The Wright brothers. 10 years later, we have the Chicago race riots. The Chicago race riot of 1919. It kicked off in response to some, brutality, some stupidity. A young black man was stoned and drowned, in Lake Michigan, all because he was swimming in an area that was designated for whites only. And here is the hypocrisy and the stupidity of racism right here, right? So they have this notion that we can just kill this black man because, he was swimming in our area. Effing dumb. And I'm glad that we live in a society today where that shit doesn't happen anymore. Pardon the language. But, all life is precious. All lives matter. And it's just stupid to think that you can just dehumanize someone just because you don't like the pigmentation of their skin tone. It's just absolutely stupid and horrendous. And I wish that racism didn't exist. I wish it had never had existed. And I wish that mankind could learn how to love and not hate, because it's just ridiculous. In 1940, Warner Brothers, they released their Looney Tunes animated short film, Wild Hare. See, I watched Looney Tunes as a kid. And my generation I don't think we ever quite grasped the concept that cartoons were never really supposed to be for us kids. That was adult entertainment. That was considered adult entertainment back then. Why were all the Looney Tunes cartoons so thematically geared towards World War II? Because that's about the time period when it was coming out, and when it was, those cartoons were made in the 40s, and World War II was going on in the 40s. And so a lot of it was meant to be entertainment for the troops, right? So, they really didn't get to see a whole lot of movies, but what they would do is they would get newsreels of what was going on back home. And in those newsreels, they would catch these little animated shorts, whether it was like Popeye, or it was, Mickey Mouse, or it was the Warner Brothers, the Looney Tunes. That's how these cartoons got big and huge. And it wasn't until the 50s that they started thinking, hey, we could, this is television programming for kids. We'll just let the kids watch it. And so that's really, and in the 60s especially, that's where the morning cartoons, the Saturday morning cartoons, all that stuff, that's where it kind of got its real foothold. But the reality is that those original cartoons, they were never meant for us kids. That's why if you really, especially Looney Tunes, if you watch Looney Tunes, you catch a lot of adult themed content in those cartoons, and you realize that really wasn't really wasn't appropriate for kids. But 1946, avant-garde writer Gertrude Stein dies at the age of 72. Something about her is that said that her home was often used as a salon for up-and-coming artists. So she was an icon in the literary world, in the literary arts, I should say. It's on this day in 1953 that an armistice agreement ending the Korean War was signed in Panmunjom, Central Korea. What's interesting about that is, my understanding is, while there was this is I don't know that this is correct terminology, because my understanding was that while there was a ceasefire signed, it wasn't an actual true armistice that ended the war, because technically speaking, the Korean War is still going on. It's just on a, it's on a permanent timeout. That they never really, I mean, that's why they still have that demilitarized zone on the 39th parallel. That's why, North Korean North Korean troops are here, South Korean troops are here, and they're staring at each other, and it's a powder keg, and they're, sometimes that one might pop off around at the other guy, and then they kind of downplay it so that they don't spark off another war. But the reality is that it is my understanding that the war itself really didn't end so much as it's just on a permanent timeout. And so I'm kind of wondering if maybe that's just bad jargon or terminology on the part of Britannica.com. So, it is what it is. But at any rate, the hostilities stopped on this day in July 27th, 1953. The Americans were no longer fighting in the Korean War. Hostilities did stop. So, I mean, from that perspective, I guess from a certain point of view, that's what it is. A couple actors here pass away on this day. The first one was 2003. British-born American entertainer Bob Hope dies at the age of 100. Yeah, he lived a good long life, and he was really good for the troops. Even in World War II, from World War II on, he was always part of like the USO shows where he would entertain the troops with his comedy, with his song and dance numbers. He was an actor. He was a comedian. He had some great one-liners. I mean, he supported the troops. He was that guy that went and entertained troops, and he was the morale booster for troops deployed overseas. In 2017, I didn't know this. I don't know why I didn't know this. I've always liked him. He was a great actor. American playwright and actor Sam Shepard. The 80s movie The Right Stuff, he played Chuck Yeager in that movie. I believe he is related to Alan Shepard, the astronaut who was featured in that movie. But he didn't play Alan Shepard. He played Chuck Yeager. At any rate, Sam Shepard passed away in 2017 at the age of 73. And I'm not sure how I missed that, because, again, I really liked him as an actor, loved his work. So, it's kind of a bummer when one of your favorites goes. So, but today's featured event is on this day because, this is Olympics time. The Olympics have started here in 2024. I don't watch them. I never really cared for the Olympics. I know how un-American of me. But I've never been a big fan of the Olympics. I didn't like them in 84. I didn't like them in 88. I was annoyed in 92 that we sent NBA basketball players just so that we could win gold medals. I thought that was absolutely that was cheating on our part, and I don't care what anybody says. You can argue with me all you want. The Olympics are about the amateurs, and it's never about the professionals. And like, none of those guys had none of those guys had amateur status that went on Dream Team, right? And then, granted, mind you, a lot of those basketball players were some of my favorite basketball players, but I just don't think that it was right for them to represent the United States, because they're professionals. They weren't amateur athletes. So in a sense, our best, meaning our professional players, went to the Olympics and just slaughtered the amateurs of the rest of the world. Now, there's been an argument that has said that that raised the bar internationally for the sport, and that may be so, but um, how righteous is it to raise the bar by way of cheating, right? So it's Olympics time. Yay! I'm tuning out. I'm not paying attention to it. Um, Apparently Simone Biles is back, and well, um, I wasn't a big fan of her either when she bowed out of the Olympics at the Olympics, because citing that she had, you know, um, dizziness issues, and the thing is, like, she knew about these dizziness issues um, during tryouts, and she should have bowed out and let someone else go there, because I think, again, she deprived someone else from competing, which is, it's any Olympian's dream to actually get to the Olympics, but it's, it's even better when they win the A medal. So why am I talking about the Olympics? Because it's on this day in 1996, a terrorist attack at the Atlanta Olympics happened. It was a pipe bomb. I wasn't aware that people were actually killed and injured. I thought the bomb was discovered by a guard, like a security guard, and he had averted the issue. But maybe I'm thinking of a different event altogether. I vaguely recall that guard was under scrutiny because it was like he wanted to be a hero, so he placed this backpack there so that he could, I discovered this backpack, it's, and try to make himself out to be a hero. But that might have been a different event altogether that I'm confusing with the Atlanta Olympics. I don't remember. It was during my drinking days, so take that for what it is. But it is on this day in 1996 that a pipe bomb explodes. It kills one person, it injures 111, and it was the very first terrorist attack since the 1972 Munich Games. And if you're not familiar with what happened with the Munich Games, the Olympics were in Munich that year. Israel was competing, and a group of Palestinians had they infiltrated the Olympic Village, is what they call, where everyone comes together, and that's where they live, and they commune for those, a couple weeks, 11 days, whatever, 17 days, or whatever it is that the Olympics go on. And so this Palestinian group got into Olympic Village there, and they murdered all of the Israeli Olympians in their sleep. It was a huge uproar, huge, to do. It was one of the reasons why Mossad had upped its ante in going after Yasser Arafat. If you've ever seen the movie Munich, it's a pretty good, for being a Hollywood movie, it's a pretty good depiction of what happened at those games and the aftermath of those games. Like, the Mossad came that close to taking out Yasser Arafat, who was one of the planners of this attack. And I mean, I could go on and on and on about Yasser Arafat and now how much I really don't like the man, and not that I should be glorifying somebody's death, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad that he's no longer around, because he's not the one who's causing any more strife in the region. However, there are other people that are doing it in his place, and they're actually doing a lot more than he ever did. So the October 7th incident coming to mind. But yeah, it was this terrorist attack happened on our soil, on U.S. soil, and it was a pipe bomb. It only killed one person and injured 111, but it was kind of, it was reminiscent of the 72 games, and it was like, this kind of stuff shouldn't happen. The Olympics are about setting your personal squabbles aside, and in coming together in unity in in friendly competition. So that's what it's supposed to be about. So yeah, that concludes this day in history for July 27th. We'll do it again tomorrow for July 28th. So take care, be blessed, and enjoy your day. All right, bye.